I think I just had a session before you, and
Mm-hmm.
the person had a dream that was only about 3 lines. It was so brief, such a short paragraph, and she said, "Well, I don't know if there's anything in there." And it was very simple. A very simple scene, was not at all complicated with many things and so on. And I was able to show her where she knew that that's her dream tells you something.
Yeah.
You see, and
Yes.
the dream was telling her that she's not taking care of the element in her by which she makes decisions and by
Mm-hmm.
which she takes responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, in general, we look at that, if we have to name it, as the masculine element,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the feminine, well, that's just a convenience idea, So, that everybody has a masculine and feminine element and their characteristics in themselves.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If we deny one element, uh, like an element of decision making, an element of being responsible to yourself. They usually go together, those two. When you don't, when you deny that and have somebody else do it for you because you need it in your life,
Mm-hmm.
then, but it's then lacking in you. And so her dream had an element where her left breast was caressed and she went into ecstasy, caressed by a man. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole dream with, I mean, I'm giving you a very short synopsis of it, but the whole dream where she is saying to herself, if you were to be exercising your ability to respond, which includes respond to me, to
Mm-hmm.
herself,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you were to exercise that ability, were responsible and were decisive, you would be so ecstatically happy and satisfied, which is what I talked about in class last Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw that that's what that dream was telling her. So our dreams tell us things very clearly, and they say them in a very simple way. And I think most people, well, first of all, most people don't remember their
Right.
dreams,
Yes.
and but you can learn to do that. I have them have a pad of paper in their on their night table and a pen
Mm-hmm.
or pencil,
Mm-hmm.
so that and they can say to themselves at night before I go to sleep, I say to myself, I will try my best to
Yes.
remember my dream and write it down.
Yes.
Amazingly, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And but most people don't see what their dream is saying.
Right.
So it's their dream is saying it to them. It's the subconscious in them speaking to the conscious mind. This is what I, the dreamer, really want. You see?
Yes. Yes, I do. And that's something I've studied over the years off and on and done, like you were saying, tracked my own dreams, really thought about what does this mean for me? What is this saying? What is the message here? And interestingly, I have a recurring dream about one of my cats that died very suddenly. The cat will appear in various dreams, and sometimes I'm protecting it. Sometimes it's there just as a maybe in a different scene of the dream, but the cat is there. It's just maybe sitting there. And 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 actually my other cat prior to that one too, he was I think 18 when he passed. And these cats have made appearances in my dreams. And the interesting thing about the cat that died very suddenly is I always feel very close again to that cat after those dreams. I feel I really had a hard time with that one because it was so sudden. I took her in and that was it. That was it. In a couple hours later, and so the those dreams always feel with this particular cat very comforting to me because I feel a connection again to that cat as if she was still in the physical here with me now.
Yeah. So the way I would look at that, I would say that your dream is your way of informing you of something that is desired, or something that's going on that isn't desired, or whatever, but informing you from the subconscious that this wants to be responded to. This is what
Yeah.
I want to have,
Yeah.
So your cats take your dream, take certain characteristics of your cats to paint the picture to the conscious you, who is not necessarily as aware as the subconscious sometimes, not
Yes.
all the time, but sometimes. And so takes these characteristics to paint the picture that you could understand, by which you could understand yourself. you know.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
then if you know what that dream says, then it behooves you to respond to what you're saying to yourself by actually acting according or upon that, acting upon that. Do you see what I mean?
I do. And which makes me think again about how I used to, like you were suggesting, write down dreams, because I'm not sure if we've ever talked about this on here, but I had a reoccurring dream for probably almost 20 years about an ex-boyfriend from high school. And I didn't even like talking about this dream because I felt somewhat ridiculous still talking about somebody from 20 years ago who I had no contact with, didn't care to. It was really, and so there was I felt a lot of, I don't know, guilt maybe, or even shame about having this dream about this person. And always in these scenarios, I would wake up feeling very defeated and very kind of off for the whole day after having these dreams. And as I was going through my own inner work over the past couple of years, the one thing that used to be something for me that I struggled with was the word alone. That word alone, I couldn't even say the word for the longest time because it brought up so much emotion. And through a lot of inner work and just where I was at and ready to face, I guess, what I realized is the feelings that I felt in those dreams about the ex were my definition of what it felt like to be alone. Like I finally made the connection for myself of what that was and what that
Yeah.
was saying to me.
Yeah, now Sloan, I'm trying to not go into this dream because it wouldn't be appropriate, We're not going to interpret the dream right
Right.
now. But I would say the reason you've had to have that dream is you talking to yourself for 20 years means you haven't listened.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
haven't responded. And
Yes.
you already let the cat out of the bag. You felt ashamed. You did not accept what the dream was telling you. You felt ashamed and so on. You put outer stuff in your
Yes.
response to the inner stuff that was trying to come up. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Yes. And you're exactly right. And
And there is the problem with interpreting dreams.
mhm.
I think most people cannot interpret their dreams.
Yeah.
It's not that they're not smart enough. It's just they don't get it. People don't get
Yeah.
it. And I think most other people interpreting your dreams is also very dangerous
Yes.
because they put their stuff on there. The stuff that's going on in them, put it on
Yes.
there, including
Yes.
psychologists and so on.
Yes.
I trust my interpretations only in terms of the response of the dreamer when they talk to me about it. I'll go step by step, only little bit at a time, checking with them on that. Does this ring true to you? Does this, what I'm just saying, does
Yeah.
this feel true to you? Then when they're clear about yes, or when they're saying, I don't know, I can't feel that, then that means I don't want to have it my interpretation. I want to interpret what there is.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what there is often absolutely clear, except for the dreamer. Well, unless there is something that I can see what a dream is about.
Like what you hear so far? Take what you've learned and invest in yourself with the Create What You Speak Academy. Visit createwhatyouspeak.com to learn more. Now back to the show.
The moment I look at it, in the beginning, it looks to me as empty or confusing as it would to the dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go through it and say, okay, there's this and this and this and this. And then it becomes very clear. And then we start talking about it together, and it becomes like, oh, I am saying to myself that I refuse to take I shy away from taking responsibility, which means then responsibility for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, or most of all, right? I shy away from taking responsibility, and therefore I also shy away from taking action, and therefore I also shy away from being strong and clear with myself, So that's what and the dream is saying, if you don't shy away from them, that you have pleasure that is as high as ecstasy. Her dream said that. You see, her dream said that. And then you say to yourself then, well, what good is it for me to shy away from responsibility, which is just the ability to respond, right?
Yes.
Exercising your ability to respond, responsibility. What good is it for me to deny that? My dream says that's where my greatest pleasure would lie, if I were to be so empowered as to be responsible. That also means to be in touch with myself and to be able to listen or feel myself and so on.
Yes.
So as you said something earlier about relationship with yourself,
Yes. And that, we talk about on all of our other episodes, we've talked about loving ourselves enough to do this, right? To take the time to interpret the message that your dream is saying to you. And it's very easy to, in the case of the dream I mentioned about the ex, I was so fixated on the fact that it was the ex, I couldn't see anything else of the message because I was so focused on, well, why is he showing up? And it wasn't even about him, but I made it about him in my mind.
Point.
Yes.
That is the point. Has nothing to do with him.
Yes.
But your relationship with him reminds you of certain facets of you.
Yes.
And the relationship to those facets is here addressed in your dream.
Yes.
Whether the dream could be expressing that you want those facets to be more expressed, or it might be saying it's wonderful that those facets are expressed in your life,
Yes, and
the dream
I know
will make it clear to you by how you feel in the dream,
Yes, it took me 20 years, but yes, I finally get it, and I can say now I don't have that dream anymore. It's been probably over a year, maybe even more. But yes, I understand it now.
Have you made true what the dream wanted you to know and act upon?
Yes. There's a long list, and like you said, I don't want to go into all the details of it because honestly, I'm not prepared. There was a lot there. There was a lot to unpack, and I think that was also very confronting to unpack those things as I went through it. But that was what needed to happen, and I mean, it's easy to look back now and see that's what that was, right? But just like with the person you worked with, but as I was going through it, I can remember those days. And sometimes I'd have the dream 5 times a week, and I would just be exhausted by the end of the week from the drain on my interpretation of it at the time. Of course, it's always easy to look back and interpret when you know something, but at the time I just didn't know it.
Yeah. Well, when you're talking about unpacking, was that good for you to unpack that?
Yes, it was what was keeping me stuck.
Okay, so could you see then having unpacked it and moving ahead is actually pleasurable and valuable and good for your life?
Completely,
So
yes.
there is the lesson in that.
Yes.
why did I